Hello, everyone. Happy Crypto Mondays, and welcome to the 10th General Meeting of the Decentralized AI Agent Alliance. Just to remind everybody about the mission, we're here to foster the development and proliferation of decentralized AI agents through education, activism, research, and events. Real quick, the agenda for today, give a quick membership update, general DAIAA update, subgroup updates, all that. My guess is will take less than 10 minutes. And then I'll turn it over to my friend, our guest for today, Evangelos Simoudis. Welcome, Evangelos.
Good to see you.
And then we'll have plenty of time at the end for open discussion about what anybody wants to talk about. So real quick, the stats on the membership, we're up to 124 active members, plus 5 from the last month, 41 individual members, so a total of 165, that's up 3. And we always like, if there's a new member here, who's joined in the last few months and hasn't yet introduced themselves, it'd be great if you could introduce yourselves. Just jump on in, everybody should be able to talk. All right, hey. You're on mute. And you're on mute. You should be able to unmute. You cannot hear you. No, you're not muted. Not quite sure why your microphone's not working. Paul, you want to go?
Hey, everybody. Paul Fligg, reside in Charleston, South Carolina. This is my first event. I got connected to Robin. Lou has coordinated previous events here in Charleston, I think in February. Ran an
I attended Crypto Mondays Charleston. I did not coordinate it.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we look forward to having you back again. We're trying to get a special one here for November if the timing allows. But yeah, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Okay. Thanks, Paul. Kurt, be able to get off of mute. There you go. And we still can't hear you. They're not quite sure what's up. Yeah, well, we'll figure it out. Anybody else want to introduce themselves? Going once, going twice. Okay. So there are non-members on the call today. Invited folks. We had a number of folks who had signed up for our newsletter, who for whatever reason I hadn't been inviting, so I invited those folks today. And invited some members from the collective. So for the folks here who aren't members, it's free to join. All you need to do to join is just send an email. And if you want to join from an organization, just send a logo along with the email. General DAIAA update. Next showcase is November 17th. Again, 12 to 1 Eastern. We have 3 slots. 2 of the slots have already been taken by members. So if anybody wants to showcase their agent, their tech, let me know, and we've still got a spot left. And also, I think we've been talking about, there are a couple other organizations that are doing overlapping work with us, and I think, both of the other organizations have indicated interest to merge. I'll be following up later this week with the Independent AI Institute, connecting with Doug Keeney, who's kind of been one of the major guys there since its founding. Oh yeah, and then just a couple of things going on kind of in the ecosystem. The A16 had their State of Crypto 2025 report last week. There was a big section on AI that I think worth reading. Really just highlights the slide how we're living in a world of oligopolies. Obviously, I think big news in the last couple of weeks, the kind of emergence of 402 ecosystem. And there are already a number of market maps out there. It's the first one that I saw, and then a few days ago, I saw a second, even more detailed one. There's just so much stuff going on in the space. It really seems like X402, could be, an event that kind of, swings the pendulum back. So real quick on the subgroup update, if any subgroup leads wants to give a quick update. I know that Parth, who heads the AI and Bitcoin subgroup, didn't have a meeting last month for various reasons, but it will be meeting on Wednesday. And so you should have an invite for that if you want to go. And if not, let Parth know in the Telegram group. Kai?
Is Telegram the best place to see these dates and subgroups to join them?
Yes.
All right, I'll start using Telegram. Thank you.
So did any of the other, I don't know if any of the other subgroup heads are on the call and want to give an update?
Yeah, so this is Peter Camille. I've been working on the conversational voice agent subgroup, and we got off to a good start back in the fall and spring and early summer. But attendance has really dropped down. So I didn't have one over the summer, and we tried re-kicking it off, starting it off again, and only one person signed up. So probably take this offline. So I canceled last month's. And, we need to talk about how we can either promote this or change the format maybe to a quarterly or a semi-annual in-person event or something. But, just give it some thought, and we can discuss at another time how to
No,
sort
I
of
think both
revamp this.
interesting. Yeah. Yeah, obviously your experience has not been uncommon amongst a number of the subgroups.
Okay. Yeah, so maybe we need a meeting amongst the subgroup leaders
Yeah,
to
that's a good idea.
a separate meeting to discuss what's working, what's not working, and how we can promote this better.
Yeah, I like that. Let's see, Ty, what?
Just personally, is there like a Notion or a Google Doc, or I think maybe a central location of information so you can ad hoc do this, not just in Telegram?
Sure.
Might be helpful.
Sure. So there is a main doc, and you can that actually has a subgroup page with each of the heads and the times that they meet and stuff. So you can go see that. If you don't have a link to that, I can put it in a little later.
That'd be great. Yeah, thank you.
I was going to mention here that we're also exploring having each of the subgroups have an area on the DAIAA website to be able to post upcoming and meeting summaries on there so that more people are exposed to it. So we're just working out how that could work.
Yeah, to create, if I were going to start a new subgroup, it would be around X402. So if anybody has an interest in that, let me know. And so then what? So cool. So I think that's all the updates. So we do it in 10 minutes. We did it in under 10 minutes. And so with that, I'd like to turn it over to our guest speaker for today, Evangelos Simoudis. I've known Evangelos for well north of a decade. And we originally met when he was running a venture firm in Palo Alto, and he spent a lot of time in post that in the automotive space. But he's always had an overlay of AI on everything he's done for a long time, and now he's been diving in very deep for a period of time now, and he's like myself an active blogger. And I read a recent post of his, and I thought it was super insightful, and so I invited him to come and share his knowledge with us and his thoughts. And so with that, I'd like to turn it over to Evangelos.
Hello. First of all, thank you for the invitation. Indeed, we've known each other over 15 years now, since you first wrote about social commerce and social computing in the enterprise. Very nice to see all of you. First of all, let me share my my screen, and Okay, so I hope you can see this. Let me give you a little bit of background. First of all, I've been involved in AI since, can you hear me okay? Can you see the screen?
Yeah, we can hear it fine. We can see it fine. I don't know if you want to put it in a slideshow.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, there we go. Okay.
There you go.
So I've been involved in AI since 1982. My PhD is in this area, particularly machine learning and neurosymbolic systems. I've been I've run 2 AI companies and in the 90s, and since 2000, I've been in the venture space, initially with Apex Partners as a managing director in private equity. Later on with Trident Capital, where Lou and I met, and this was more traditional venture capital, IT venture capital. And for the past 10 years, I'm the managing partner in a firm called Synpase Partners. And at Synpase, we do 3 things, which again are relevant to the short presentation today. We invest in early stage startups that develop AI applications for the enterprise. We advise organizations, enterprises, and governments on the use of AI. And for the past few years, with a few of our folks, we have actually been developing IP, AI IP, some of which we've spun out into startups, and other we use in our advisory work. So today's, I have a few slides that I want to share with you, and this has come out of the work that we're doing primarily on the advisory work that we're doing with various organizations, as I say, both here in the US and abroad. So the headlines here are, first of all, the enterprises are not achieving the AI results that were promised to them. And this is exhibited in a variety of ways, but for the most part, a lot of the pilot projects are proving challenging to scale or even challenging to show some meaningful results. I routinely meet with chief strategy officers, CEOs of corporations, and even though they feel that they have made significant investments over the past couple of years, they're not seeing the breadth of use cases and success that they were promised. Now, we do have a few successes, particularly in areas such as programming and customer support. Those are quite well documented already. Agents over the past, I would say, particularly since the beginning of the year, have become a huge topic. But we need to be far more deliberate in terms of how we introduce them and why. And that can be a topic of discussion. Now, technology, what we've seen over the years, I mean, so in these 25 years that I've been an investor, we have, I mean, our firm, my firms and previous firms I was with, have been always investing in new technology. And if there's one conclusion that we have seen from these efforts is that successful technology adoption was always accompanied by transformation. And with regards to AI, I feel that most enterprises have not yet undertaken the necessary transformations that they need to undertake. A big question here, a big topic is whether a company has to be an AI first or an AI enabled. And I wanted to provide at least my definitions of what I mean by these 2 concepts. So to me, an AI first company is one that reimagines how how it can use AI to accomplish more with the same or fewer resources. That means that it designs its products, its services, and its business models around AI. and AI becomes a core strategic capability that drives everything in the enterprise and it leads to continuous learning across the enterprise. On the other hand, when we talk about an AI-enabled company, this is one that augments its existing processes with AI to achieve certain improvements. So in this respect, AI acts as an enhancer to certain capabilities that the company has rather than the core driver. So if I were to summarize what we are at least pushing our clients to do is, rather than jumping straight into AI, to think about strategy plus transformation plus return on investment metrics relating to AI, experiment significantly, and I'll show how some of that's being done, particularly through the adoption of neurosymbolic systems, as opposed to being dogmatic about one technology versus another. So, what we are seeing in many cases is that corporations, whether it is because of pressure from the board or from the CEO, they jump straight into pilots rather than doing all of the steps that, in our opinion, are necessary beforehand. As a result of that, a lot of times they jump then from pilots to deployment without really measuring the success of these pilots. So many times when they get to the deployment phase, they really do not have a very good sense of whether they will be able to achieve how those pilots those pilots promised. So what we think is necessary is, first of all, to think about both a strategy which involves defining what we call a use case matrix, through which you identify what are the critical use cases that you will want to apply and deploy in the corporation, couple that with a transformation plan, and more importantly, have 4 different kinds of organizations start working together. The business unit that will be able to utilize the outcome of this effort, the HR organization that has to deal with the talent that will be involved in this effort, the IT organization that will be involved with the infrastructure and other technologies that will be used, and finally the CFO that will need to establish not only make the investment, but also establish what will be the satisfactory metrics that will make this effort successful. To this end, what we have been doing is we have been developing a methodology that allows these particular 4 types of organizations to determine under what conditions to focus on enhancing a process or rethinking it as an AI first process. And as you see here in the various criteria, some of them like resource allocation relate to the CFO. Others, such as data availability and infrastructure, relate to the IT organization, whereas and yet others relate to the business unit. So it is important in our mind for organizations to deliberately think about whether they want to go on the AI enhanced route or the AI first route. And this decision tree, if you will, becomes a lot more complex as we move on. But what I wanted to show here is even within a node of that tree, such as the one that is shown here, the decisions can be quite complex in their own right. As we think about the pilot for these projects, we're thinking about 4 different areas. The first one is how data needs to be connected. And we see in many instances organizations talking about having a lot of data, but not connecting that data so that they can leverage the entire capacity that they have, and also identify what are the gaps that they have, right? So that they can decide whether, in addition to the data that they own, whether they need to go and get other data from outside, whether it is proprietary third-party data or open source data. The connectivity of the data it exposes a lot of domain knowledge, and that domain knowledge needs to be taken into account, represented, a lot of times represented explicitly, or used in order to fine-tune a variety of models that may exist. Now, during this effort, the experimentation that is going on is a kind of like 3 levels. There's the experimenting with how to connect data and whether various connection methods give you more information content or not. You are experimenting with various knowledge representation approaches to see which ones give you the most leverage. And finally, you're experimenting with different models. And these are important because in this process, you're determining what type of agents you want to build, and if indeed agents should be an important part of your architecture. Now, what I have been doing the last few months is, with the help of a couple of my colleagues here at Synapse, we have been developing what we call an agent spectrum. And what we wanted to tease out is, as we think about agents, depending on the type of systems that you want to build, you need to think about what capabilities you want to incorporate in the agent. An important part is to think about not only about software agents like the ones that I have on the top side of the screen, but also increasingly we're seeing embedded AI into a variety of industries, starting with manufacturing, and within manufacturing, automotive is a very good candidate. So depending again on what your application is, you will need to be thinking about what level of agent you want, and how to separate between software and hardware agents. As you think about agents and the level that you want to incorporate into your system, you also need to start thinking about what's going to be the role of the human. So again, we've started teasing out what this role is going to be given where we are. Oh, I should say, by the way, I'm sorry, the red arrow in this slide indicates that where we believe that most organizations are today, at least in their agent pilot projects. So again, as I said, as you're thinking about the level of agent, you really need to think about what's going to be the role of the human who is working on this, and finally, how the various types of data that you're connecting and the various ways that you're connecting it is going again to aid in the type of agent that you are building. Finally, one of the things that we have started realizing is that as we move to higher level of agency, the large language models that we have today and organizations use broadly are not going to be sufficient for providing the intelligence that these higher level agents require. So for that reason, we need to be thinking about large reasoning models. That's what the LRM stands for. Large action models, vision language action models, and then determining both how to connect them, how to train them, and whether to use off-the-shelf models that that can be used as they are, or fine-tune, or whether to build such models from scratch. Obviously, these are expensive operations. So let me end this. I tried to make the argument that as we move forward and think about how to broaden the application of AI, particularly in the enterprise, we need to be thinking about strategy. We need to be thinking about transformation of both the entire enterprise, or at least processes within the enterprise, defining metrics for measuring the return on the investment that we're making, experimenting a lot and experimenting with different constructs, and finally bringing it all together through agents and neurosymbolic systems. So thank you.
Okay, terrific, Evangelos. Thanks a lot. There's a lot to take in there. You started, one of the things you said that about, and obviously this is an AI agent alliance. You mentioned that when you're doing experimentations or pilots with AI agents, you need to be more deliberate. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, I mean, so what we're seeing a lot of times is, and this is in the enterprise, because a lot of these pilots start from the technology organization, which again, I'm arguing that this is not the right thing to do. We're seeing organizations wanting to test specific technologies as opposed to solving specific problems. So we're seeing a lot of effort saying, I want to build an agent-based system, and they try to shoehorn the problem to using agents, right? As opposed to trying to decide, okay, I need to solve this problem, and I need AI is the right set of technologies to use for that, to incorporate in that solution. Now let me determine at what point I need to use an agent versus other types of systems that are even more effective for that particular problem. So we're seeing a lot of rogue agent efforts, a lot of efforts where people will say, well, I thought I was building this independent agent. Now I'm faced with this bill because the agent did not behave in the way, or the agents did not behave in the way that I thought they would be behaving. So that's why I've stated that your efforts need to be a lot more deliberate than just being enamored by the technology.
Makes sense. And I'll have one more question. If anybody else has a question, just raise a hand, and I'll call you in the order that the hands are put up. And Rupak, you'll be first. My last question for the moment is, you made an interesting delineation between software agents and hardware agents, and I thought you seemed to indicate that the hardware agents were having more success. Can you again expand on that a little bit?
No, actually, I didn't say that. All I was saying is that we need to recognize that as we are working with embedded AI, we need to start separating what the software agent can do versus what a hardware agent needs to do. And I'm a big proponent of embedded AI. I think it's going to make a very big difference in areas such as manufacturing, such as biotech. So we're spending a lot of time advising companies on that, and trying to understand, what concepts from software agents can transfer to hardware agents, but also what are the particularities of these agents that make the technologies and the mechanisms that will be used to build them different.
Cool. Thank you for that. Rupak?
Hi, no, thank you for great content. Really thoroughly enjoying it. Quick question. In your experience, what are you seeing companies doing around agent output verification, aka guardrailing?
Yeah. So one of the reasons that we are, we are advising organizations to think about using neurosymbolic systems is because we believe that these systems provide, through the explicit representation of knowledge, of certain types of knowledge, they provide the ability to start establishing guardrails, explaining actions, and seeing what are the reasoning steps that the system is taking. There is, I think, the big success of generative AI, in my mind, is that it showed what are the capabilities of large-scale neural systems. But in the process, through hallucinations, and everything else that we have been experiencing over the past 2.5, 3 years that generative AI has been out in the open, is that we cannot avoid using symbolic systems where we have where we represent knowledge explicitly, and we're able to use it to reason in conjunction with a neural system. So we think that this combination of neurosymbolic gives corporations and other types of organizations the peace of mind that they need. The downside is that you really need to represent this knowledge, right? Capture it, represent it, and that's why I'm saying that you need to start from connecting your data and understanding what types of connections need to be made, because in the process of establishing these connections and seeing the value of these connections, you're also able to determine, as an important side effect, what are the types of knowledge that you need to represent.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Rupak. Next
Thank
question
you.
is from Paul.
Hey, Evangelos, thank you for the content. So 2 things came to mind. First, when you hit on the slide of AI first versus AI enabled, what immediately came to mind, I just want validate like whether this is the right way to think about it. When the cloud stormed onto the scene, hyperscalers, right, started getting footprints in all these enterprises, you had the discussion of hybrid or born in the cloud. Very few companies are born in the cloud. I think Netflix is one example that comes to mind. Is this the correct way to think about it?
This is very much the correct way. And actually, I'm glad you're bringing cloud up, because if you think about it, it has taken about 15 years for the enterprise to adopt cloud in a major way. Today, on the average around the world, we have about 45, 48, maybe, okay, if I want to be generous, 50% of enterprises having some major part of their operations in the cloud. I think that I should also say, by the way, that contrary to what many people think, this is not the first AI spring that we are going through, right? In at least in my career since '82, this is my 4th AI spring, and I know there were a couple before even I got into AI. In each one of these, if we were to look at each one of these springs, and if we were to compare them with what you just brought up about cloud, is that we're seeing that there is a period of initial excitement, then you hit the wall because you realize that things are not as easy as you thought they're going to be, and that's what separates the men from the boys, right? Then the perseverance starts, and in each one of these cases, there's no question that organizations that made the commitment to whatever new technological wave is, whether it is cloud, whether it is internet, whether it is e-commerce, all of that, they saw very significant advantages to their operations, to their performance. The same thing is going to happen with this time around. Again, you talked about Netflix. Netflix has been one of the poster children of using neurosymbolic systems in a large scale and incorporating them from the lab all the way out to their operations. We're working with some companies that, on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, they are AI-centric. On Tuesdays and Thursdays are going back to their old ways.
Yeah.
That's where the problems start occurring.
Okay, so perhaps let's just use a large enterprise as an example. You've seen examples of this. You can't transform the old organization, but in some cases they spin up a new entity. It's a subsidiary of the larger company, and then they get the data, they build the processes, and then they monetize that solution through that separate entity. Is that maybe the path forward for
that is an alternative? I mean, it is not it is not without its issues, but it is an alternative. I mean, again, ideally, what you will want to do is you want to decide which part of your existing organization need to transform and transform them in place. Maybe not the whole. I mean, there are the automotive industry where we have been working for the past 10 years is a poster child of this conundrum, right? Because they have an existing business model, existing processes, assembly lines that are extremely expensive to change, yet they feel the pressure from the Chinese, and they must change, right? So and it's not, as we saw again in the automotive industry, creating completely new subsidiaries as GM and Ford and others try to establish is not always leading to the to salvation and to the correct results.
Final one here. So you
Hey, can
kind
you
of
let
touched on.
somebody else talk here, Paul? Sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
So hey, great presentation. So I wanted to ask, you talked a lot about how large organizations can transform and incorporate AI. Is there any advice for the scrappy startups? There's quite a few of them on this call.
Yeah, I will tell you what. Actually, this morning before getting into this call, we're looking at potential investment opportunity in Europe, and as we have been doing our diligence. What I said to the CEO is that she really needs to show more vertical expertise as opposed to trying to create a very horizontal product. This is a small company, eight people out of the Netherlands. What we are finding again is that in many examples over the past 3 years, including companies that we funded, by the way, the horizontal product that they built is quickly taken over by new features that the majors, let's call them, whether it is an OpenAI or an Anthropic, which is a private company but a very large private companies, or public companies like Microsoft, they are able to replicate those capabilities that initially the startup thought they were unique to them, right? And they were addressing a market need. So what we are advising is focus on and go deep on specific areas. Whether hopefully this will not be specific to one industry, but they need to be specific to one process, right? And go deep into that process. But also be aware that there's a high risk these days of being overtaken by one of the majors. We are also, by the way, advising our startups at least to be very thoughtful about what they share with the large language models. because again, we've seen many situations of the data they share, the specs they share in order to create a new algorithm, in order to create a new system, being absorbed and then utilized against them. So again, I was saying early in my presentation that programming, as an example, is a very successful use case that particularly generative AI can claim. But there are many downsides to this convenience that we get through the automatic programming capabilities that the foundation models and other large language models can provide.
That answer the question to me?
Thank
you. Thanks. Paul, do you want to, you said you had one follow-up?
Oh, I did. Yeah, Evangelos. So, read some stuff about, LLMs effectively have already churned through all the user-generated data out there. What role would you see blockchain and distributed ledger technologies playing in AGI and really future AI systems?
Unfortunately, I'm not the right person to ask that question. I think that here's what I will say again from an agent perspective, and you can extrapolate however you want. I believe that we will need agent-based systems will need to be distributed. And distributed, in fact, the blog post that Lou was referring to, by the way, my blog can be found in my blog site is corporateinnovation.co. But one of the arguments I'm making, again, based on work that we've been doing at Synapse recently, is that the existing large language models will not be sufficient for as our agent capabilities increase. And furthermore, because we have to be thinking about distributed systems, natural language is not the way for agents to communicate. We need to develop agent-specific communication language, or ACLs, as they're called. Now, when I was keeping my hands really dirty with AI, we have languages like KQML that were used for communication among agents. I hope that we will be able to build something better than KQML. KQML is already 30 plus years old. But we need to be thinking about that, and I don't see enough work in that area. In fact, that was one of the reasons that I wrote the blog post. So again, going back to your original question, if through blockchain, particularly the protocols, we're able to develop that type of more efficient and capable inter-agent communication and collaboration, that's a win. I hope there was more work in that area. I mean, even if I look at the A2A protocol or the MCP from Anthropic, it's almost like they're trying to replicate what RPC was trying to do or has done, and they're not doing a very good job about it. I mean, so if you really want to, if you want to have a distributed system, you shouldn't be thinking about RPC. You shouldn't be thinking just about MCP. Maybe MCP will get there, right? But again, my point is that as we think about multi-agent systems, there are a number of technologies that we need to be thinking more deeply about, starting with models, going to communication languages, and other capabilities.
Cool. Thanks for that. Next question is from Alan.
Yeah, great presentation. I learned a lot here today. Along those same lines of the last question, there are a lot of platforms that are popping up where you can just go in and create agents and connect them together and, define your business process. What role do you see those playing? Are most enterprises simply building their own, or are they using tools like that?
No, actually, they are using tools like that. My argument is that they're jumping into tools like that way too quickly. Before they really define their problem and before really understanding what a tool like that will entail as you move from pilot to deployment. I mean, I'll give you an example. We have done a number of analyses for corporations showing them what is going to be their monthly bill once they take their AI systems that have a foundation model as a backend and deploy it across the enterprise. And the CFOs, even though the token cost has come down, the CFOs freak out because they're saying that's not something that I thought about. I mean, I thought it was because, and again, the problem is that technology says, oh, well, I can use the free version of ChatGPT. I'm exaggerating a bit, but and it doesn't cost me anything, or it costs me $20 a month. Well, there's a very difference to build a small prototype and maybe cost you, $1,000 in API calls, as opposed to saying, now I'm going to deploy this to my, to my bank that has thousands of employees and thousands of branches and all of that, right? That's where the disconnect occurs, and that's why I had that particular workflow where I say, build your pilot, measure the effectiveness, but within the measurement, not only measure whether it solves your problem, but also how much it costs to solve your problem, and then extrapolate from that what it's going to take, what investment it will take if you're going to deploy that to your enterprise. I'll give you another example. We have a portfolio company that is developing a material science model. This is specialized. It's going to be a large action model specialized for material science. When the management team first came to us and said, this is going to be really inexpensive. It's going to be cost effective, blah, blah, blah. Now we're thinking about raising $20 million just to build that model. Okay.
That's a big financial impact.
Exactly. And that's where using these foundation models has become deceptively easy and deceptively inexpensive because somebody else is bearing the cost. In this case, SoftBank giving $40 billion or whatever they're going to give to OpenAI, or Meta putting $70 billion a year on CapEx. And I mean, you can see the numbers as well as I can. But there are hidden costs there that the enterprise needs to, and the startup for that matter, needs to take into consideration.
Do you see companies bringing that in-house and maintaining their own models because of the cost and because of the privacy?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I said to the gentleman who asked the question before, I believe that at best we're going to have a hybrid world where there are going to be models and processes that rely on these models that will be completely in-house. And then there will be other processes that could use maybe exclusively third-party models, and maybe others that do something in between. But that's the world that we will have to move to, not because there's anything special about AI, but because as you said, companies have to worry about their proprietary data. I mean, we have a client that has their own proprietary version of GPT, and they're paying OpenAI to maintain some version of GPT. I mean, that is not viable for them going forward. It helps them with experimentation. It's a very expensive experimentation, and eventually they know that they will have to build their own models if they want to take that approach.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Excellent. Ty, you're up next.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome presentation. There's just two answers I wanted to dig a little deeper in that last bit. When you were talking about RPC instead of MCP, in my mental model, those are two different layers of the stack, where MCP allows a local LLM or API LLM to have data sourcing of different LangChain wrapped tooling to pull in to understand context of PGA Tour data off of that API. And then the RPC layer is the DLTs like Hedera or Base or Sui. And so the AI model utilizes the MCP server layer for data ingestion, understanding, memory, kind of allocate it. And then when they want to do something that's immutable, they execute RPC calls to decentralized ledger technology to then instate that in both the signature verification of that agent and that data attestation or the data on chain for immutable provenance externally. Does that fit in your model, or you were just saying it's like an either or, and I think it's more of a stack?
Actually, I was going to how many people, I mean, this is a very good explanation. Thank you. How many people do you think that have worked with agents right now have this notion?
Very few. I did a speech at AI conference last month in San Francisco, and no one. No one understands DLT if you understand AI, which is
exactly my point.
So
exactly my point, which is, we're seeing a natural act, and what I'm saying is, if you're going to build this kind of distributed systems, either there has to be a lot more education, or the systems that are being used more on a more daily basis, they need to have better capabilities. Because again, if you are as sophisticated as you appear to be, where you're making that connection and you're building that stack, great, all the power to you. I won't say 99%, but over 90% of the organizations don't do that. So,
I'd say 99.
Yeah. Okay.
That's sort of like, so I'm a senior product manager at Hedera. So my mindset when I went to San Francisco was, the AI industry doesn't know what they don't know. And there's this fundamental part of AI that's needed, which is like, we live in the worst hellscape possible. AI innovated past digital trust, and there's no solution for understanding any validity of anything. You just sort of have to guess. And the DLT is that solution, with the data attestation of the signature of CNN or Fox News, or the digital attestation of that image and that video. We can see it hasn't been manipulated. And that infrastructure needs to exist. And so a lot of my energy is going to just trying to talk to that 99% and explain that decentralized AI is the future, because you have that immutable, trusted provenance of information and data to know at least who started it, where it went, if it's been manipulated. And yeah, I think that's a part of why I'm in this group as well, because we just saw NVIDIA and Intel decide to use Hedera through Equity Labs to say, this is the chipset, this is the information we're training, this is the model. And they put that on the public ledger, and they're like, I can prove to you I didn't steal your IP. And that to me is like, should be the baseline of enterprise. And today they have no idea they even need that. They're just like, how do I make more money if I put AI into this field? And that's,
boy, I mean, again, as I said, the majority of the organizations, including the organizations we deal with, don't have that level of sophistication. So how to get there, it's a whole different story.
Yeah, I have a whole thesis, but I'm not going to take up everyone's time on it. So
Guys, I have maybe one more minute because I need to jump to another call at 10.
Yes.
So I'm happy to take any last question, but I do have to go in about a minute.
Yeah, well, look, I'll give you the minute back. This has been great, Evangelos. Thank you so much for the time and the thoughtful insight. It was a really time well spent. And I think we can sign off. Thanks everybody for showing up.
Take care. Bye.
Crypto Mondays or elsewhere. Bye.
Thank you. Thanks, Lou.
Bye-bye.